crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with host David Lamb and the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
Good evening and welcome into the attorneys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I've got a really interesting conversation ahead for you, a panel of experts that are sitting on ready to go. But first, the ground rules, how you can join our conversation, because the show is always better when you are involved. At the bottom of your screen, you'll notice how you can get in touch with us. We'd love for you to do so. Also, Hollis Wright makes available each and every Sunday night attorneys that are standing by live to speak with you. That's a free, off-air, confidential conversation. And to get in touch with them, if you'd like to speak with them, just call the number area code 844-529-8255. That's toll free, or locally here in the Birmingham area. That number is 205-324-3600. We'd love to hear from you. And again, they're standing by all throughout the program tonight. Leading tonight's conversation from the firm of Hollis Wright, Carter Clay. Carter, good to see you.
Good to see you, David. I hope you're doing well.
Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, so tonight's topic, we're going to be covering premises liability cases. And that's really just a legal way to express situations where individuals are injured on somebody else's property where the injury was the result of a defective or deteriorating type condition on the property.
Okay.
And there are a lot of nuances. This is somewhat of it can be a complicated area of law, and we're going to get into it. We're going to try and break it down in a very simplistic and understandable way. We see a lot of these types of cases. A lot of times people in the general public know these cases or refer to them as slip and falls or trip and fall type cases involving people that are tripping or slipping on somebody else's property due to a condition of the property. We see a lot of those types of cases. In a lot of ways, these cases can be very challenging for individuals that are injured, and we're going to talk a lot about why those challenges exist in these types of cases. And I'm very glad and we're very fortunate to have Josh Snable on the program with us here this evening. Josh is an outstanding young attorney in this area and has a general practice, I think, but does focus a lot of your practice on handling these types of cases. And Josh, thanks so much for being here with us this evening.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, tell us a little bit about the nature of your law practice at the Snable law firm.
Yeah, so I graduated law school in 2004, moved back to Birmingham, and my family's been involved in the practice of law for some time. My dad's actually a local attorney as well, and so I guess it kind of just runs in my blood. I've represented, it was more of a general practice, like you said, so I've represented people in various areas of practice from all the way from real estate closing transactions to bankruptcy and consumer litigation matters, to personal injury, premises liability, and auto accidents.
Now, one of the things that I like to do in a show involving premises liability is to answer the first question that people should ask themselves if they're contemplating pursuing one of these types of cases. And a lot of times, and we're going to talk about the status or the classification of the person given where the incident occurred. But really the first question that I personally think has to be asked is, what was the event that gave rise to the injury itself? Because not all cases that occur or incidents that occur on somebody else's property will be a premises liability case. Let me give an example. If I'm on somebody else's property, but I am injured when somebody runs over me with their car, let's say they're backing out of a driveway and they hit me, that's not going to be a premises liability case, even though the incident happened on somebody else's property. That's going to be a case involving active negligence, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so, and I think that is critically important because, as you know, and as we'll talk about, there's a real division between which track the case will take and what law applies, and more importantly, what defenses apply to a case involving active negligence. When we talk about premises liability, we're talking about somebody getting injured as a result of a defective condition on the property, something that's linked or sort of attached to the property, right?
Right.
So really talk about the classifications. If you have a situation involving a defective condition, what's the first step in the process?
Well, first you have to show that did the owner or occupier of the property have a duty to protect that patron or visitor or and we'll get to the statuses later. So really you look at the duty. You look at, just with any tort, you got to show there was a breach of that duty or that standard of care. Did the breach of that duty, did it cause damage? And then finally, was there damage or was there injury? So those 4 elements are essential, especially in premises liability cases. So the first thing you look at is, did the person, the owner or occupier, have a duty to protect that person?
Right. And in other words, duty is another way to say that is did they have a responsibility,
right,
and what was the extent of that responsibility?
Yes.
All right, now legally speaking, how do we as lawyers determine what duty an individual occupier or owner of a land has?
Right. So then you look at the statuses of people, and it depends on what your status is when you come onto that property as to what duty you're owed. So the first is an invitee. An invitee is a classic way of saying I'm a patron in a grocery store, or I'm at a big box wholesale hardware store. I'm coming on to the property of another for their financial gain. In that instance, it's a heightened standard of care or a heightened duty, as we noted. The owner-occupier not only has a duty to protect that patron from known, but also unknown damages, or unknown hazards, shall I say. So it's a heightened duty of care. That's where you see the slip and falls, the trip and falls based on substances on the floor, items sticking out from aisles. It's not strict liability, but it's close to it. If you're injured, you got to show knew or should have known to protect that person from that injury. Then you look at a licensee. A licensee is a social guest. You have a cookout and you have people over to your house. You owe them a standard of care or a duty to protect them, but only from, let's say, known hazards or known dangers. So let's say you know, as the owner of that property, that the bottom step on your stairwell is defective in some way.
Loose.
Right, loose. You have a duty to either place a big sign and warn those people, tell each and every guest when they come in that, hey, watch out for that last step. And then finally, you look at trespassers. Trespassers are really owed no standard of care other than you can't willfully, wantonly, purposefully, recklessly injure them.
Yeah. So that's really the order that we have, David, in terms of the classification or status of individuals on property. And we're going to go through some examples and kind of illustrate situations where invitees were hurt, licensees were hurt, and perhaps trespassers were hurt, and the potential for viability and success if they are exposed to a defective condition on the property.
All right, we're breaking down premises liability on tonight's show. Appreciate you being with us as we head to break. A reminder, Hollis Wright does a great job on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or you can just search their website as well. Just search Hollis Wright, be able to find it easily there. A great educational and informational resource. Take advantage of that for sure. All right, time for our first break of the evening. We're stepping aside, but we'll be back. Stay tuned. More of The Attorneys coming right up. Stay with us, folks.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm. Thank you for watching The Attorneys. Now, we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple. Provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury-related topics, you can call, email, or text us. Or you can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or simply contact us by going to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us link. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us watching The Attorneys.
If you need help after an accident, contact the team of attorneys at Hollis Wright.
Our law firm proudly supports Alabama high school athletics as well as the AL.com Hollis Wright Player of the Week.
Be sure to vote every week in the AL.com Hollis Wright Player of the Week fan poll.
Be sure to go vote this week for your favorite player.
Welcome back in to the attorneys. Hey, before we head back to the conversation here on premises liability, a reminder that attorneys from Hollis Wright are standing by live, free, confidential, all fair conversation for you. All you have to do to get in touch with them, 844-529-8255. That's the toll-free line. Or here in the Birmingham area, the local number is 205-324-3600. They're available all throughout the show tonight. Carter?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about some of the more common hazardous conditions that you've seen in your practice relative to whether somebody's an invitee or a licensee or a trespasser, and just give us some examples of what you've seen over the years.
Sure. So as you mentioned, invitees are someone who comes into that store for the financial gain of the owner-occupier. And those type things, you've heard of the old banana peel situation. A patron turns the corner, hits the banana peel, falls. You also see spills, things projecting out from aisles, people tripping and falling. And we talk about things that remain on the floor. Also in premises liability is dog bite or unrestrained animals. You look at unfenced swimming pools. You see situations where people were injured from faulty electrical equipment, inadequate lighting, inadequate security. So it's a pretty broad area of practice that encompasses all of those types of injuries.
Yeah, and in my practice at our law firm, of course, in addition to those examples that you just mentioned, we've seen situations where you get falling merchandise. Merchandise is not stacked properly on the shelves or the racks, and they fall on top of each of patrons that are in there. We've seen situations where they don't put out mats. Of course, if people that are watching, you ever know, well, why they've got these mats over there where the fruit stands are and things like that, because the fruit will fall on the ground, and if people step on it, it can cause a slip and fall hazard. So they've got those mats out. Of course, you see the yellow mop signs. Just mop the floor, watch out, it's wet. So these are all reasonable precautions that premises owners and businesses are taking to try and prevent people from getting injured, first and foremost, but also carrying out the duty or the responsibility that you talked about a minute ago.
Right, just like you said, those injuries can be catastrophic, and the owner-occupier of that store is simply, he's trying to uphold that heightened standard of that duty of care, like you mentioned.
Now, one area that we see a lot of in our practice, and this does get a little bit complicated, but it's situations where you've got construction workers that are working on the premises of another. So you've got a lot of things going on there. You've got a contracting company who is in an employer-employee relationship with that laborer. They're working on the premises of another. And I've handled a lot of cases over the years where workers were injured on job sites. And of course, you've got workers' compensation with your immediate employer, and they're immune from any other lawsuit other than a workers' comp claim. But we've had situations and been very fortunate to successfully represent individuals who either died or were catastrophically injured against the premises owner. And several years ago, I represented a family of an individual that fell 18 feet into a facility or a warehouse that they were doing roofing work on. They were re-roofing it, and somebody had put insulation out, but my guy's first day on the job, he thought that the insulation was laying over metal roofing, and he stepped on top of the insulation, fell 18 feet, and was killed. And we pursued a claim against a premises owner in that case because we were able to establish that the premises owner actually reserved the right to control the manner, methods, and means which they did the work. Have you seen any cases like that in your career?
I have, and that kind of goes back to the question I get a lot is, during the initial intake, a lot of people, or a lot of my clients, they haven't consulted with an attorney before.
Yeah.
So their first question to me is, well, do I need an attorney? And my answer is always, no, I don't think you need one. But in situations like yours, you're dealing with professionals on the other side. They do have attorneys, and they do have insurance adjusters, and their job is to protect their insured from liability.
Right.
That's their job. It's not to be callous. It's not to be cold, although we may think that sometimes.
Yeah.
But their job is to protect their insured. So when I look at situations where people wonder, do I need an attorney? Oftentimes it's advisable simply because you need to fight fire with fire, so to speak.
Well, and a lot of times people don't know whether they have a viable claim or not. if they get injured on the job, they probably know they've got some type of workers' comp claim, but we see times all the time where people will go to see their workers' comp lawyer thinking they've only got a workers' comp claim and they've got a catastrophic injury. Next thing you know, we find out that there's a third party, whether it be a premises owner or some other contractor that was out there that was at fault for causing the condition. Now all of a sudden we've been able to convert that into a third party claim and not only get them workers' comp benefits, but third party damages as well, which are a lot more and a lot better than workers' comp benefits.
Sure.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the attractive nuisance doctrine. I think that's something that comes up from time to time. I don't see it all that often in my practice, but what is that?
Yeah, so attractive nuisance is an antiquated term. It's been around for, I don't know, since maybe the beginning of time, but it's where it affects trespassers and normally children. It's where an owner or occupier or an owner of property has some condition, swimming pools, mounds of sand, gravel pits, anything, dilapidated structures that may attract children to come onto that property. And if you have those sort of conditions on your property, and I see it a lot where people may own investment property in rural parts and they don't investigate their property often. Right. They don't live there. So, but they still have a duty to protect even those trespassers, like you said, children who may come onto the property and be injured by some sort of defective condition, and really they have a duty to, in the swimming pools, I think most ordinances say fences need to be so high, and so you need to protect, especially children.
Yeah, swimming pools, trampolines, slides, and playgrounds and things like that are probably the most common examples of what would qualify as an attractive nuisance. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Most of your city ordinances are going to require that your yard be fenced in so that you can't have access. But a lot of times it's not just having a fence, you've got to have it gated properly.
Sure.
I mean, if you've got a fence, but the latch is on the outside where a 3 or 4 year old can reach it and easily open it, then you may not have taken reasonable steps to prevent somebody from getting injured in that situation. So you've got to be real careful.
A minute left before we head to break, but just try to get this question in. Can I recover damages if I trip on debris on a public sidewalk next to a construction site?
Maybe, possibly. Yeah. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about a while ago about construction zones. It's kind of a moving target. The insurers on the other side are going to try and move that target and say, well, I'm not liable, he's liable. And if he's liable, then he's liable. So there's a lot of indemnification to track down. But yeah, the easy answer would be possibly, probably. It's just finding out who's liable and who's in control of that. Or who created that defective condition.
Yeah, who's responsible for maintaining the area, sweeping, cleaning it off.
Okay. All right. Time for our final break of the evening. As we do so, a reminder, you got a few minutes remaining if you want to speak with the attorneys from Hollis Wright that are standing by live. Stay tuned. We have one more segment to get through here, so stay tuned. We've got more of the attorneys coming right up. Stay with us.
I'm Drew McNutt with the law firm of Hollis Wright. We often get asked what happens if someone is injured by a motorist who doesn't have any insurance coverage. In tonight's Legal 411, we will address uninsured motorist coverage. Under Alabama law, all automobile policies issued must provide uninsured motorist coverage unless the name insured rejects the coverage in writing. If you purchase this coverage and you are injured by an uninsured driver, you can make a claim against your own insurance company to compensate you for the injuries caused by an uninsured or underinsured driver. While liability insurance is required by state law, it is estimated that over 20% of the motorists in Alabama do not have any coverage at all. Uninsured motorist coverage provides you with the ability to protect yourself and your family in the event you are injured or killed by one of these uninsured drivers. If you are concerned about whether you're covered, I recommend that you check your declarations page or contact your insurance agent to discuss your coverage options. If you do not have uninsured motorist coverage, consider adding it. And if you do have it, discuss increasing your limits. Oftentimes, you can purchase hundreds of thousands in coverage for less than $100 a year. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on the real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into the attorneys. This is our final segment, so a little over 7 minutes remaining. If you want to get in touch with the attorneys from Hollis Wright, the numbers again, 844-529-8255 or 205-324-3600. And Carter, Hollis Wright, always really involved in the community. Neat thing you guys are doing with AL.com.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to remind the viewers that we sponsor on AL.com the Hollis Wright Football Player of the Week for high school football, which is obviously incredibly popular in this area. AL.com does an incredible job of identifying top performers from Friday night, and I believe it's around noon on Sunday that voting starts, but they'll have a list of players that people and fans can go on and vote for their top player, and then they'll announce later on in the week. So the winner later on in the week. I would encourage everybody to go check it out on AL.com. If you've got a favorite performer, high school football player, vote for them.
That's right. Great idea. And again, AL.com. Appreciate you guys partnering with them. Hey, a question we've got here on speaking of being on campuses, can a college or school be held liable for an attack on a student that occurred on campus?
Yeah, so Josh, this is something that I've handled quite a bit over the years, and these cases have gotten to be very challenging in the state of Alabama. And really what we're talking about is situations where you've got a criminal act of a third party. You know, you've got certain responsibilities that college campuses have towards their students, or really any premises owner has towards people that are on their property. And we see this sometimes in the form of rapes. Unfortunately, we see shootings, murders, and things like that, where then the victims try and bring a claim against the owner of the premises, and it's called a criminal act of a third party. And really what you've got to show is you've got to show a lot of knowledge on the part of the premises owner, that they had knowledge, whether it be really almost actual knowledge that the event that you're complaining about, they had actual knowledge that it was going to occur when it occurred. And those cases have gotten pretty difficult in the state of Alabama. And so they may be liable or potentially liable, but it's really going to depend upon what level of evidence that you have that they knew that this was going to happen.
Yeah, Carter's spot on. Really what you have to show is that actual knowledge, and I guess maybe a repeated type behavior could impute that knowledge onto the owner or occupier of the property. But yeah, you're talking about criminal acts, and those are what you see, the sexual assaults. It's more than just mere property damage type crime. And so yeah, it'd be difficult to prove, but possibly.
Yeah, the development of evidence and proof in those cases can be challenging, but Josh is absolutely right. I mean, if something happened on a Friday night at 10 o'clock and you could show a repeated pattern for 10 consecutive weeks leading up to that event where the same type of event occurred, that type of evidence would help you in establishing your burden of proof, but they can be challenging.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Let's take a look at another question from a viewer. Can I file a personal injury claim on my own?
I think that goes back to our prior statement, do I need an attorney? No, I mean, unless you're facing maybe capital murder charges, you probably, that would be advisable, but it's always, I think, advisable. One, it's free to go talk to an attorney.
Yep.
Never a charge, or there shouldn't be. And so, you know, we referenced that the other side, the adjuster, they're going to hire counsel on their side to protect their interest. I think it's strongly advisable to at least consult with an attorney, examine whether or not you have a claim. Most attorneys will fully look at the situation involving your prospective claim. You can know the strengths or weaknesses, and then maybe give you all the tools necessary for you to make that own decision.
Yeah, we mentioned this from time to time on the show, but I think this is a nice, natural way to remind the viewers that you and I, when we're handling these types of claims, we handle them on a contingency fee arrangement, which means that we don't get paid for our time at all unless we successfully recover. So if somebody comes to see you or see me and we investigate it, we evaluate it, we talk with them, we get what we need to investigate it properly and thoroughly, if we decline the case, they don't owe us anything. So right. it is actually a free consultation at that point in time.
Right.
And what about a slip and fall accident? Talk to the viewers a little bit about the steps that they need to be taking in order to protect themselves if they are contemplating pursuing a personal injury claim.
Yeah, so at the forefront of any sort of personal injury claim is seek medical attention. One, your health is priceless, and restoring that health is priceless. So always seek medical attention. Assuming that you don't need some sort of emergent care, there's some steps you can take to kind of preserve the evidence, preserve the kind of viability of your claim. So always make a report. I assume most managers at big box retailers are fully capable of, on some pre-printed forms, of making that report.
They have those forms.
And that just helps memorialize the time, the date, the actors involved. All phones have a camera. Even a bad phone has a pretty good camera. Yeah. So it's strongly advisable. Take pictures. That helps kind of commemorate, well, what was the hazard that existed? And also, take ID of some witnesses. Get their name, their address or phone number, email address, any sort of contact information that can be help out, memorialize, commemorate, corroborate your side of the story.
Yeah. Believe it or not, we're just about out of time, but I want to give both of you guys the opportunity for a final thought. And if you would, you go first.
David, thanks. Carter, it's a pleasure. Sure. Y'all have a great platform here. I think you do an awesome public interest in having this program. So I'm just grateful to share the stage with you guys. Thank you for your time. And any sort of injury case, it's advisable just to go, if you take anything away from this, just go talk to an attorney. It costs you nothing.
Yeah. And I just want to expand on one thing that Josh was talking about, what to do after an incident. It's incredibly important early on for either you or really an attorney to send a letter to the individual or a premises owner where you were hurt, telling them to preserve any evidence. Whatever they have, whatever defective condition existed, they need to preserve it because it will be critical evidence down the road.
Really good information tonight, gentlemen. Thank you both. Good to see both of you, and good to see you as well. As always, really appreciate your time. We're wrapping things up here, but you see the information there about how you can get in touch with the firm. Always will respond to each and every call, text, and email. Thanks so much for the time. We really do appreciate you joining us each and every Sunday evening, and we'll look for you next time right here on The Attorneys. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.